Hello, and welcome to Mid-Market Leaders, the podcast featuring leaders from some of America's most impactful but lesser-known companies. My name is Jeff Cass. I'm an executive coach here in Charlotte, North Carolina, who retired in 2023 after more than 30 years of leadership in corporate America, and I'll be your host. Today, we're talking about the elephant in the room for every mid-market leader, artificial intelligence. Most of us feel the pressure to adopt it because we don't want to get left behind. But there's a massive gap between using ChatGPT or Gemini and actually running a business on AI without it blowing up in your face. Whether it's data privacy, the inevitable inaccuracies, or just losing track of who is actually responsible when the machine makes a mistake, the risks are real. My guest today is Mart Rovers, the founder of Rovers Strategic Advisory. Mart has spent over 30 years inside the kind of organizations that most people read about in business school case studies. I've asked him to come onto the show today to do something a little different, to help us translate. So Mart, welcome to the show.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here, and I look forward to hopefully provide that little nugget that any mid-market organization can benefit from.
Yeah, amen. I think you can. Everybody's talking about AI right now, right? And you're the guy who helps companies, let's say, build the steering wheel and brakes for the AI engine. Most folks call it maybe AI governance, but for our listeners, let's just say it's called staying out of trouble. How does that sound?
Love it, yes. It's absolutely quotable what you just said, as the steering wheel and the brakes. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's a good analogy for me to get my head wrapped around what you do. So here, let's just start this way. Most mid-market leaders I talk to think about governance really as a fancy word for red tape that might slow them down. Okay, so tell us why it actually might be the thing that could help them go faster.
That's actually the perfect question. The perception is usually indeed it slows you down because it sounds, oh, that's more paperwork, that's more bureaucracy, there's more to go through to think of, which what has proven to be the case is that it's the opposite. It's an enabler. It can speed up things. To give you an example, organization, no governance in place. There was this AI initiative they worked on for months and months. A lot of money was pumped into it. And then when push came to shove as far as this needs to go in production, they were looking at each other as in, so who's going to give the green light here? And there was this, I wouldn't say that they were not so nice to each other, but they were as in, that's my call. No, that's my call. No, I'm the one, right? There was IT involved and legal involved and finance involved. Back and forth, unbelievable. Eventually, it was as in, all right, let's make they had a COO. That should be the person, and this is why. All of a sudden, within weeks, that thing was in production. And it sounds so as in, really, is that what governance is all about? But that whole decision aspect is huge. And I can flip that as far as the risks involved, right? Who's going to own up to the risks if that AI thing is not doing what it's supposed to do? Because then nobody's home, right? And I don't want to carry that risk. The governance will take care of that. These are things you should worry about before you actually go live. If there's an escalation path needed, okay, that's something you think of beforehand, not afterwards. And with AI, it's not a technology thing. It's part of it, but there's so much more involved. I just mentioned there's finance involved, there's legal involved, there's risk involved, there's ethics involved, human resources. You name it, there's so many moving parts, so many people involved to do this. And it's unique that way. And not to think about this beforehand will only slow you down. And that's what a few examples to say. Think before you do something, and that's what governance is all about in essence.
Yeah, so to understand that, I guess you have to think about some of the problems that could happen when you're implementing. And I think we're talking very generically. It could be almost any AI agent or application. Right. So maybe let's just start this way. Maybe why don't describe maybe the type of companies you work with first, okay? And then share what is some of the most common mistakes they make.
That's a very good point, Jeff. Our focus is the mid-market, 50 million to a billion. If you go back to the basics, AI begins and it ends with quality data. And for a company like Google and the Amazons and the Metas, they've been banking on this for decades. They have it down, right? But for the typical mid-market organization, it was never a huge priority to worry about data quality. But now it has to be. Now, if you're going to, let's say, automate some business processes that you've already done, maybe, right, with whatever ERP solution that you have, but you want to bring in some intelligence through AI, right, to recognize patterns earlier or predictions, do much better predictions earlier, right? AI goes a step further than what the typical ERP tools do for you. You start combining tools, you start having people now to communicate, collaborate. With a simple example, right? What is your definition of a customer? Ask finance, they will tell you once we send the invoice, right? Then sales will say the moment we sign the deal, you know, that it may take a while before they buy some, but that's a customer for us. Two examples that is already as in, so what's your definition then? In an AI solutions that's going to tie all that together, what definition do we choose? It's a very basic example, and I'm trying to make it real as I can. And that's just one example of like collaboration and all this integration may have issues. Because AI will, if you don't tell AI, it will make its own call as far as, I guess this is it from what I've seen elsewhere, so that must be the right answer. Of course, that's not how you want to do this. They're not in the driver's seat. They're not on the steering wheel, as to keep stay with the analogy. Back to the data. So getting quality data, we've done numerous of assessments for organizations where we literally, after 3 or 4 weeks after the assessment was done, we concluded, you're not ready. It will take you another 6 months or so to clean up your data if we're going to use this particular use case. And this is the data that we're looking at. How much attention have organizations given to the quality of the data that they have? Is it as in we were able to get the order processed? There were so many steps in between that we didn't document, or it was as in let's push this through no matter what, yes, but nobody looked back as in if we would do this again, how would we do this differently, and let's optimize the process, or let's optimize the data that we collect. And as in there's no time for that, right? That's the other part, right? To clean it up and to have quality data. Data is the new gold. It's we heard it before, but it takes some nurturing to get to that point to have quality data and have AI benefit from it, because AI has its own mind. When you feed it something and it'll do its best, but it will go off in a direction that you don't want it to go, and you cause more issues basically than the benefits that you get.
Okay. So let me make sure I understand that. So let's say a company has an ERP and their data isn't necessarily clean or consistent. A person looking at that data can rationalize it.
Right.
AI agent that is using this data for some function, right, the analysis or whatever it is, would not be able to necessarily rationalize, is what you're saying, but it could make a decision that will affect a customer, employees, or someone else. Is that right?
That's correct. The learning language module, you have to train, you have to teach it. And if you have a bad teacher, your student is only as good as the teacher, so to speak.
Yeah.
In other words, if your data is not up to par and it's not of quality, do not expect that your student will perform the way you want the student to perform. It's literally garbage in, garbage out. And that sounds harsh, but that's where it starts. And that's mid-market organizations, Do they have data owners? Do they have data custodians?
Mm.
Right? You get into those types of responsibilities, as in, but that was never necessary. So we did our thing, and it worked. Now it becomes a whole different ball game. Basically, this is what AI does. It creates new responsibilities, new positions in some organizations, and others will have see their work being automated, and now maybe you have time to do something else. Who knows? But it's what AI does. It replaces things in essence.
Mm. Mm.
The way we work, the way we communicate, and yeah, the other positions will come in instead of it.
Okay. Okay. So let's keep going. I want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
first, then maybe just to more specifics about maybe how you are using AI personally or in your business,
Yeah.
because that might help shed some light on how we're talking about this within the middle market.
For sure. So for me, it's the same. If I, let's say, um, look back at all my projects, programs that I've done,
Mm.
no, it says, and I wish I would have done a much better job documenting everything so I had better information. Because, for example, you can, if we stick to the popular ones like ChatGPT or Claude AI, you can feed, we can feed those with 50, 60, 100 projects that you've done, right? And then have it draw a conclusion as in, if these are the characteristics of your next project, then we can calculate the risk for you. We can calculate how much time every step will take, what the end date is going to look like, the resources that you need. And again, it all begins with the right data. But that's
Mm.
one application in support of doing our programs and projects. Now, that's just one example. A lot is used also for our marketing.
Mm.
Um, I use a lot of tools for that when it comes to making recordings, video clips, getting the posts out on social media that's automated. Yeah.
Okay.
Doing
All
all
right.
the,
So you use it quite a bit yourself. It sounds like, yeah, based on what you've described.
yeah.
So let's take this angle at it. If any business leader today was polled about their employees right now, half of them would probably be using AI, some form of AI, probably an AI assistant on their personal phones to do company
Right.
work. Right? So what risks do you see for the company or the leader with that activity?
Some people refer to that as shadow AI, as in we don't even know are our employees using any, as they said, Chat or Claude or Gemini or Copilot. As in, have we even thought this through when people start using that?
Mm-hmm.
And do we allow for that? And, there's enough cases where it's as in we started using it, and now all of a sudden there's a policy as in you're not allowed to use it anymore. Or you're only allowed to use the LLM that we have for ourselves behind the firewall. In other words, there's this big unknown, like you said. There was some report published not so long ago that 21% of the people working in organizations didn't even know if the company was using AI,
Hmm.
had AI solutions. And like you said, half of them, that's also a good percentage actually. People don't even use AI. I've never actually used it. And that is a bit worrisome, and that's not to send some warnings or make people scared, but AI is going fast, and I don't think I say anything new here. And what other organizations are doing, of course, they don't publicize that. The moment they're able to start reaping the benefits from it, it can go fast. So it does take some upskilling of your team members to become
Mm-hmm.
familiar with the basics, but also specifics just for them for their own job, for their own work. But yeah, put some company information into ChatGPT that is unprotected, even when you have a $20 license per month. Uh, Chat will gladly take your data and benefit from it and learn from it. You don't know where it ends. And that's what some people don't. I met the person who bought this license for himself and thought, okay, I have a license, so my data is safe. No, it's still out there in the cloud, unless you take the effort and put it behind the firewall and make it your own module, basically. There's a lot of unknown, and a story that vendors are now offering, as in, I'll give you a license for 6 months free, but I do want your data, and that's what they don't tell you, but that's why they do this, because their agents need to learn from your data. They're hungry for data. They want more data, right? The more data, the smarter they get, but not at your expense. And if I can say one more thing, is that unfortunately in the United States, we're a little bit behind compared to what happens in Europe, where they are preparing now for the EU AI Act that goes live in August. We're a little bit behind when it comes to regulations, but it's coming, right? It's not as in it will never happen here. It will happen. It's just a matter of time. That we have to worry about those things. Will be if we want to continue doing business, in essence.
Okay. So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So let's say I'm an employee of a company, right? And I'm using my own AI assistant, whatever it is, right? ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever.
Yeah.
I feed in information from the company I'm working in because I want an answer. Is that information available now to other people that would do a search on my company? Is that what you're saying, that the data potentially is out there?
The data is out there. It's a given.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. AI, chat will use it. That's basically what you say when you agree to the terms and conditions, that whatever you put in there is now out there in the world.
It's in the public domain, so to speak.
It's a public domain, exactly, yes. So you need to be really mindful as far as what data you feed into that. And if you're going to depend a lot on it, make the investment to have your own version, so to speak.
Okay. So a lot of companies I've heard, they don't allow anybody to use, let's say, their own AI assistant, but they do make
Right.
one available behind the firewall, as you
Correct.
said. So they have to
Yeah,
integrate that into their own system. And that means the
correct.
data that any employee puts in would not be open to the public. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying, exactly. Yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right. I want to make that's an important point, I think, for everybody to distinguish if they didn't know that, because I think that's a big one, right?
It is. Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. All right. Let's take this another step further, because there are some AI applications where they are actually making decisions or taking actions of some kind, right? So if an AI agent maybe gives a client bad advice and the company gets sued, who owns that mistake? Is it the IT department? Is it the vendor of the IT application? Is it the CEO?
I hate to tell you, but it's the CEO. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you may not even be aware of it. It's That's where it eventually lands. And it's not something you can delegate either,
Mhm.
because it's your company data, or it's basically what you produced, your outputs. And with this whole AI phenomenon, I mean, the kind of scary part is it's quite smart, quite quickly, and it's also biased very quickly. And then let's not forget about ethics, right? We all have certain ethics standards, but they're not always the same everywhere. So it creeps into these AI solutions, and it's something that you continuously have to monitor. It's not something as a one and done. That's the difference too with if you do an ERP implementation, you install the software, train people, I'm simplifying it, and then off you go, right?
Mhm.
And then we
Mhm.
tweak it and we optimize it and so on. But we don't have to monitor that system from the data it produces. We know, as in, if you feed it with this, that's the outcome. the output. But with AI, it's as in before it starts veering off into a direction, as in, wait, the accuracy is no longer what it should be. 85% accuracy of data, that's what you aim for.
Mm.
If your test data is only getting you to 60%, you have some more work to do before you actually release that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Which is part of your governance and what your business does with as people are
correct,
considering AI. Okay. Okay.
correct. Yeah.
So along those lines, if a company is considering some kind of AI application, when a vendor says that their application is AI powered, what should that company be asking them to make sure that their data isn't being used in some way that they don't want it to be used?
That's all, but there's vetting involved, there's contracts involved. For example, you definitely should have the right to dig a little bit deeper and get into what is their AI or data protection policy when it comes to their AI solutions, right? As far as if you put your data in, where does it end? Who has access to that? I deal with several states in the U.S., and of course, yeah, a lot of the state data is public data. At the same time, it cannot be something that is all over, especially when it comes to taxpayer information, social security numbers, anything of that nature. So yes, it's the first requirement is usually where's your data center, where's your data storage? Is it U.S.? Okay, that's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so these are questions you ask early on. And the other part is that goes back to data ownership. It's your data. You should own it. And unfortunately, the big boys, what they've done all these years, you thought you owned your own data. No, they own it now.
Mm.
And that's, again, a little behind the ball. Europe is suing the Googles and the Microsoft left and right for years and years because of the data ownership aspect and other aspects. But over here, we're a little bit more lenient when it comes to that. We're too worried about that. But yeah, be mindful. Again, like we said earlier, your information is out there before you, so protect it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So maybe we've been spending all of our time just on AI, and I want to spend a little bit of time on you and your business here. But
Okay.
one more question here for people that
Yeah.
will be listening. If there's one thing, that a CEO listening today in the middle market should know, what should they do this week relative to the AI in their business? Do you have any specific things that would be more immediate that they could do?
Yeah, definitely think in terms of who owns decisions when it comes to not so much which tool, but let's say the way you do business, your business processes. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and when decisions are being made, you have some work to do as far as this AI solution. There is a decision to be made by finance, by legal. Sales probably gets involved, or marketing gets involved. HR should be involved. You as a CEO should be involved when it comes to decision. If you have somebody who carries around the title of COO, and I haven't even mentioned the CIO, right? So each is going to make decisions when it comes to their part of this AI thingy that we're going to benefit from, and each should have input. I published an article this week about legal. How often is legal involved at the very end before go live instead of
Mm-hmm.
being involved from the very beginning? And no wonder legal, or even risk, if you have risk involved, a risk team, as in, no wonder they're going to put the brakes on it. As in, no, it's not compliant. Nope, this will not fly. So put everything on hold. We won't go live. Right?
Mm-hmm.
As just one example of a decision where you want to have the people involved early and often, so there's no surprises down the road as far as, well, we were all there. We were all there. We made that decision. That's what we call the collaborative AI governance framework. The word collaboratives is huge for us. It's cultural, I get that, but it's necessary if you want to do this right. You don't want to ignore people because there's too much at stake here.
Yeah, tell me if I'm thinking about this wrong, but if I'm a company and I'm a man on the management team, I'm thinking about bringing in AI, which is almost like a third party, right? It's a third party
Yes.
that can make other decisions. And you can't think of it like something that is just a function that runs within your system because it has too many other tentacles and knowledge to make a decision, right? So involving legal, involving finance, involving other parties, no different than you would if you brought in a physical person that would be doing a consulting job or something for you. Is that a fair way to think about it?
It's fair, very fair, exactly. Think about your ERP solution that you may have, or anything like that, customer relation management solution. Traditionally, they were written, and I dumb it down, with if, then, else statements. If this, then do that, else do that. And you could literally tell it what to do in whatever scenario, and you could make it smarter by adding more if, then, else. Yes, that's out the window. AI is not if, then, else. AI is learning from patterns, but it learns basically, and it keeps learning. It learns every time you ask it something, and especially when you reinforce that as far as thank you, that's the answer that I was looking for. It knows, oh, okay, that was a good call on my part, so next time I will use that same answer or use that same decision or same example. So it stores that basically. It's like a little bit of a brain kind of, and you can have it make the connections that you want it to. The other part of that is it's a pleaser too. It wants to be nice to you, and it wants to give you an answer that you may like. And very worrisome is that it makes up answers.
Hallucinations, isn't that what they call that?
That's hallucination, exactly. And some better than others when it comes to avoiding that. But yes, if you believe everything it says, you are going to be in trouble. I always give people the example as in, if you haven't called upon, let's say, Chat or Claude and said, wait a minute, that's not true because, and then typically they admit, I say, oh yeah, I forgot, I overlooked or I didn't think of that, apologies or something, right? If you never had that experience, never had that moment, then you're believing everything it says, which is not the right approach.
Yeah.
It doesn't know everything.
Be skeptical, right? Is that what you're saying?
Skeptical.
Be skeptical. Okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. JP Morgan just recently came out with a study and they talked to the middle market, and it was interesting. I saw a stat that I thought you would be interested in if you didn't see this, but the middle market companies that they were connected with, they said all but 11% were planning on using AI in some way in their business this year. So everybody basically is planning on using, almost 90% of the companies, right?
Yeah.
The question for you is, how do they use it? How do they govern it? How do they put the steering wheel and the brakes on it, so to speak, so that it can work effectively within their business without causing other problems?
Exactly, yes. It is not the traditional rollout of what we've done in the past. It's not the traditional transition or transformation that we've gone through and that we've done in the past. If I, for example, tell you that a project that is going to implement any AI thingy, the project phase that is going to look at the data, worry about the data, get the right data, 6 months easily. If the numbers are correct, that 70% of the AI projects fail at the moment, and that's a very scary number. I wish that the number was different, but that's what the MITs and the Berkeleys and all of those conclude, the Gartners. And a lot of them stall, and they don't go live. And decisions is a part of that, as in who pulls the trigger, and nobody wants to own up to the risks. Insufficient data or data quality, there's a number of reasons, but yes, I mean, think before you do something. It sounds so obvious, but definitely with the AI, because it's a new thing, right?
Yeah.
You want
No,
to
it's a shiny
replicate.
object that a lot of people are very interested in. It has great promise, but I think to your
Yeah,
point, managing it is so important.
it is.
Talk a little bit more then about the business. What makes your business unique?
So it's advisory. Let's start there. And it's not consulting. Unlike a big four who sends an army to your organization and starts developing your policies and your procedures and starts configuring whatever solution you're thinking of and running the projects and so on. So it's governance. In other words, the approach is that after a year, us advising while you're doing, that you won't need us anymore. We've transferred all our information, all our knowledge, even in infrastructure we leave behind, so organizations can basically run and grow themselves. We're still there if they need us, but in general, we've done our duty, so to speak, and you're in the best possible shape to carry this forward with whatever AI is being thrown at you. Having said that, AI, of course, is still growing as well. It's maturing. It's maturing fast. If, for example, AI agents, where we always recommended, well, there needs to be a human in the loop. Yeah, of course, that's still necessary, but there's now such smart technology out there where there's much less a need for people to be involved. Good news, bad news, yes. So these are some developments that that continue to happen. AI will become smarter and smarter, but at least you have the dials, the steering wheels, maybe multiple, and all the brakes necessary, right, to do this in a way that you can confidently say we're in good shape. So yeah, we developed our own approach, our own infrastructure, and as I said from the beginning, we want you to grow in your capabilities so you can do this yourself and you're not going to depend on the next smart consultant or expert that is out there.
Okay. Okay. So if I had to summarize it, if you ideally, you mentioned a stat before, 70% of AI projects fail today. Ideally, what you would like is you'd like your customers to be able to not be in that 70%, right?
Correct.
And be able to handle any new projects they have after a year because you're going to be out of there. You would have helped them develop the knowledge and processes to handle any AI project thrown at them. Is that it?
Correct. That's
Okay.
that's the message indeed. We want you to be in the 30%, and hopefully that 30% becomes 40 and 50 and so on.
Okay. I tell you, we covered a lot of ground when it comes to AI. We could probably spend 3 hours on this, Mart, but I always save this last question for last for everybody that I have on, and yours can certainly take a AI twist to it. But if you had to give some advice for a new executive or a CEO, what would you say to them?
I would first off, this should not be perceived as something that is scary, right? See it as an opportunity. It is an opportunity. It takes us, it leapfrogs us into areas that we haven't even thought of. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. If you say it's all new to me, read up on it. Follow some people that are educational and not commercial. Learn, yes, ask around, network with people that are in this space that already have done successes, yes. Educate yourself, become aware, and then make it a team effort, right? Not you, but just by yourself. It's much more fun, right? When you grow together. So awareness, education, definitely what I would start with. And if you say already there, I know what I'm talking about. Yes. Look at your organization. Is your organization running at the same pace with all the cylinders, if we stick to the car analogy? Because it might be wonderful for IT to be on the forefront of this, but they don't own data, maybe a little bit, but they're not going to own up all the risks. Yes, all the legal stuff involved. That's not up to them. So don't look at it as this is another technology thing. It is not. Yes, there are other moving parts involved, and we touched on those in this interview. In other words, yeah, definitely make it a team effort and make it collaborative. Maybe that's the word I want to end with.
Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, respect it. It has a great potential to your point. Yeah, but respect it and understand it. So that's great advice, Mart. Hey, I really enjoyed having you on here. Just as part of our discussion, I had to do a lot of research myself, and that was very enlightening to me. So again, Mart, thank you very much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.